Why I don't buy and sell classic Mercedes. A little bit of a dishonest title because I do buy cars. They're just for me. They're not for resale. But the real title of this video should be why I don't sell classic Mercedes. And selling, I don't even know where to begin. Like, this is just the biggest can of worms. So I hope you guys have a bag of Parm crisps and, you know, I don't know, some chocolate milk or something, because this one's going to get you through a couple bags of keto snacks. I honestly don't understand why they don't put enough food in keto snacks. It's ridiculous. But anyway, when I have bought a car in the past, it has always been undervalued. Because years ago, my friend Matt Liggis told me, make money on the buy. Great. Unfortunately, all of that profit evaporates when it's time for the sell, and I've had to sell cars. And in fact, I can count on like 1.5 hands the number of cars I've sold. When I was in college, I sold an 82, not like got rid of, but cars that I've sold because I needed to earn some money. You know, I sold an 82 300D when I was in college. I sold an 84 300D when I was just starting off in my career. I sold a 72 300 SEL 4.5, which I think I pretty much got rid of, but my friend Rob owns it now. I sold a 300 SEL 6.3 to my friend Keith because, again, I just didn't want the car anymore. I sold a 93 300E. I sold an 85 300 SD that I ended up having to put way more money in than I ever thought, and ended up selling it for way less than my cost of entry because the car had rust, but I couldn't send the car away not safe. You know, there are a couple more. I sold an 82 240D. I sold some other cars. But the one common thread all of these cars have had is that when you sell that car, the owner of that car, if you're a mechanic, will call you over every little thing, and they will do it for months or years. And it gets really annoying because I don't like telling people no. I don't like saying to people, I don't want to help you. That's contrary to my nature. The problem is when I have a bunch of things on my plate and I can't help somebody, then it starts to trouble me and annoy the person who bought the car. But when you're a mechanic and you start selling cars, people are going to bother you all day long if they have an issue with that car. And if that car is a long way away, they can't just bring it back to you for repairs. I remember the 85 300 TD that I sold. The car burned up in a fire because the lady was too far away to bring it to me for repairs. And she took it to a subpar repair shop. She should have just brought it here so it didn't burn up in a fire, and I would have fixed the climate control the right way. You know, and that was a big regret of mine, actually selling that car. I'd rather have 2 300 TD wagons than, you know, I could have just taken out a $6,000 loan or something to get my roof finished instead of, you know what I mean, sacrificing this great car for $6,500. It just angered me to no end that this happened. The point that I'm trying to make is, I, as a mechanic with a good reputation, can't just sell a car because it's never going to be good enough. And when I send cars home after I've sorted them out, people call me and ask me a lot of questions too, which is fine. That's okay. I expect that. The thing is, on those cars I've sent home, I have billed for a number of hours I feel sufficiently represents my work. I didn't have to buy the car, store the car, buy parts of the car. I didn't have to own the car. So I put enough hours into my invoice to where I am happy with the result, and I understand that in the future the customer is going to call me and have things they need, or I may even have to do warranty repairs. The problem is that you can't really make money on a car you've sold because the car is never going to be cheap enough. It's something, people will spend $15,000 buying a car that's worth $7,500. Then they'll put $20,000 into it. So they'll have $35,000 in a car that's probably worth about $15,000 when they're done. And that's perfectly okay because I think a lot of people understand that if they make the bed, they have to lay in it. But God forbid I buy the same car for $7,500, put 60 or 70 hours into it. In other words, I put my own $20,000 expense into it. At the end of the day, I still can't sell that car for $15,000. And I'm still losing something like $12,500. I mean, that's just insane to me. There's no money in it because when I do something to my standard, it just doesn't work out. So the case in point I'll use, which I have no hard feelings about this car. It is what it is. 85 300 SD, 400,000 miles. Car ran pretty well. It was a decent running car. I loved this car, actually. I wanted to keep this car, drive this car, but I just had no room for it. I tried for several years using it as a customer liaison vehicle where I could leave it at customers' houses. That didn't work out very well because every time I'd go get in it, the battery was dead or the AC was discharged. So I put an AC compressor on it and sorted out the charging issues and fixed a host of other mechanical issues. But my cost of entry in this car was $5,500. I put probably about $5,000 into it. And at the end of the day, it was a $3,500 car. That's really what it was. And so I ended up losing about $7,000 on this car. And, that's the whole thing about these classic Mercedes. You can't just go in and buy one and hope you're going to make money on it in the future. It never happens. Classic cars are an expensive hobby. You don't get your money out. I look at all my cars, like my 280 SE 4.5, my 300 CD, my... my 300 TD wagon. I have hours and hours and thousands of dollars in these cars. But I know that I'm never going to sell these things. I'm not going to get that cash out of it. But what I am going to get is the enjoyment. And when you're losing $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 or $50,000, it all hurts the same. It all hurts the same. It's all money lost. So when I start looking at something and say, oh, I'm going to lose money on this, then why? Why even bother? Why even bother selling it? And then having to deal with the ignominy of answering questions about the car when you should just tell the owner, bring the car to me for repairs. That's the reality of it. So what's my compromise? My compromise now is I will help people find the cars they want, even though I've been cooling off on this a little bit because it takes up a lot of my time. So if you do want me to find a car for you, I'll help you, but just remember that every car is going to need something. It's just, I try to beat the market a little bit. I try to buy directly from the seller. I try to buy cars that are not advertised. Try to help people buy cars that haven't been circulated, although this is getting increasingly hard because everybody knows what bring a trailer is, I'd say that some of the auction sites, such as MB Market, maybe... I'm not saying that everybody's perfect, but they do a better job of vetting the cars because they're more personally involved. But I could just imagine what kind of nightmares Ben and Blakely have to deal with when somebody buys a car and they're not happy with it because they blame the seller, whether the seller is an auction platform or the seller is an individual. The seller becomes the sacrificial goat. Everybody hates them, and then they end up losing their reputation, I don't know how some people like John Woods do it. John Woods actually sells some really nice cars. But if I always tell John this, if I had to do your job, I'm just saying I'd probably sleep with a gun next to my bed wondering if tonight would be the night. I'd lose my freaking mind. I just can't wrap my head around the amount of stress that people who actually try to do a good job selling cars actually do, because buyers can't be pleased. There's no way to please a buyer. I can please customers. I just have to give them roughly 50 hours of free labor, and I'm not joking. The average customer in the shop gets 30 to 75 hours worth of free labor, because there's so many things we find that have to be tuned, adjusted, sorted. I'm not talking about back-breaking labor. I'm talking about Pierre drove the car home, parked the car for 30 minutes, laid under the car trying to adjust the suspension and the alignment to try to get it dialed in, and then took it to the alignment shop again for the second time while he waited with the car while it got aligned. And then he had to adjust the steering box after that. I'm talking about hours that just get sucked into black holes. And it's a reality of this job. That's why I raised my hourly rate. When people see my hourly rate and they go, oh, $180 an hour is awfully high. It's like, yeah, you buy 1 hour and you get 2 hours for free. And those 2 hours will never show up on an invoice. They'll never get documented. The customer will never know the pain and suffering I have to go through because they are not with me at 9 o'clock at night. Or most nights I leave the shop at, if I'm not dealing with family health issues, between 9 and 11 o'clock. I get up in the morning between 6 and 7 o'clock. So I don't get a whole lot of sleep. I spend most of those hours dealing with issues on the customer's cars I don't expect my technicians to deal with. It's just part of the game. But it hurts even more when you're dealing with those issues and you've sold the car and you had to buy the car and store the car and buy all the parts and you're already losing $15,000. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications. If you're in the business of buying and selling cars, get a burner phone. That's the best advice I can give you. And I'll see you in the next video.